exhausted, troubled, drained, worried, stressed. Over the past few weeks, I've heard all of these words in conversations I've had with family, with friends, with staff, and parishioners. In a normal summer, these aren't words I would expect to hear, because summer we normally associate with vacations and relaxation, calm and peace. And yet, I find myself struggling with many of these same emotions right now. Anybody here feeling exhausted, worried, stressed, anxious? Anybody? A few people. Wow. For all the rest of you, I'm so happy. Because with everything going on right now in our nation and our world, how could you not feel these things? Wars in the Ukraine and Middle East rage on. The incredible polarization and divisions in our country. Last week's assassination attempt. Friday's global computer meltdown. Unless you live under a rock or live entirely off the grid, these things can't help but weigh you down. They could rob your joy, your hope, and your peace of mind, resulting in these very feelings. Is there a remedy? Is there a fix? Well, we've come to the final week of our first summer message series titled Mark My Words. In the gospel readings throughout this series, St. Mark has given us some very practical advice for dealing with the challenges and struggles of daily life. And we've heard how Jesus and his followers face storms and setbacks, rejection, and all manner of troubles. And they did all this while preaching, teaching, and healing. What kept them balanced and sane? What enabled them to keep going? Well, today, Mark gave us the answer. Here's what Jesus said to his disciples: "Come away by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while." Now, to catch you up, in last week's gospel, Jesus decided to send out his apostles to preach and heal. And before sending them out, Jesus did his best to prepare them for everything they would face. He let them know that their mission would be very challenging. They'd be leaving behind the comforts of home as they sailed into uncharted waters. Jesus also warned them that some people would reject them and others would simply refuse to listen. And his advice for when that happens was, just move on. In today's gospel, we heard that the apostles returned from that first mission, and they reported to Jesus what they had done and taught. And even though Mark doesn't give us any details about that conversation, I think we can safely assume that it wasn't all good news. Maybe they talked about the towns that rejected them. Maybe they discussed the people who refused to listen. Maybe they encountered anger, hostility. Maybe they were threatened. Whatever they shared, it was after hearing their report that Jesus said to them, "Come away by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while." Jesus knew that they needed a break. They needed time to decompress, to rest up and regroup. And I'm sure these were welcome words to the apostles. But sadly, the break that Jesus had planned for them was not to be. People kept coming. So many people that they didn't even have time to eat. So Jesus went to plan B. They went off in the boat by themselves to a deserted place. And then that plan got derailed because people followed them. Mark told us that when they disembarked and saw the vast crowd, Jesus was moved with pity, and he began to teach them many things. So Jesus and the apostles had to put their own plans on hold for the time being. And I say for the time being because Jesus was not a workaholic. He did not minister to people 24/7. The Gospels record many times when Jesus got up early to go off and pray. He would sneak off to be alone and reflect. And that's because he knew that if he was going to remain focused on his mission, he'd have to maintain a balance between work, rest, and prayer. And by doing this, Jesus was modeling for his apostles the importance of maintaining that balance in their own lives. And he was giving them a remedy for the challenges and the setbacks that life can bring. And the same is true for any who would follow Jesus. It's true for me. It's true for you. Like me, I'm guessing you probably know someone you'd consider to be a workaholic. Someone who is incapable of disconnecting from work or taking serious time off. I've known several in my time as a priest, including one I vacationed with. He felt the need to check in with his parish staff several times every single day. He couldn't relax. He refused to disconnect. And because of it, he ended the vacation as stressed as when he began. That's a classic workaholic. And the negative effects of this kind of lifestyle can be serious and sometimes deadly. When someone doesn't take time off to rest or recharge, they can easily burn out. As one pastor writes, when you don't take a break, you end up breaking. When you don't take a break, you end up breaking. And the disciple who never takes time to spiritually recharge by resting, praying, and reflecting will end up being good for nobody. Now, there's a myth I've encountered in some church circles that a person's work can be their prayer. I've even heard it from some parishioners. Whenever I hear it, I know it's simply an excuse for not slowing down and taking time to pray. As followers of Jesus, we need to hear the message in this gospel reading from Mark and commit to regular time for prayer and rest. So if you're someone who struggles to do what Jesus did, answer this question. What in my daily life keeps me from spending time in prayer? Be honest in answering this question. Is it your work? Is it your schedule that gets in the way? Is it being overcommitted? Maybe it's spending time on the wrong things. People will spend hours every day online or watching TV and then say, I can't find time to pray. Is it social media and the internet that feeds a steady stream of bad news, which leaves you anxious, angry, or fearful? What is it for you? What keeps you from experiencing the calm and peace that God wants for you? Be honest in answering this question. Because once you do, once you take an honest look at your routines and habits, it becomes possible to change. And I'd like to offer a few suggestions of what your change can look like. Here's the first one. Disconnect. Obviously, it's great if you're able to get away, leave all of life's burdens behind, but if you can't, carve out some quiet time by disconnecting from all your devices. Take one day a week or part of every day and just disconnect. Don't keep checking the news or social media. Don't respond to emails or text. Tune them out. And don't worry, the calls, the texts, and posts will all be waiting for you when you reconnect. But doing this filters out the noise and the voices that can distract you, upset you, and anger you. And disconnecting allows your heart and your mind to slow down and refresh. It's one way to do as Jesus suggested, to go away and rest a while. Another practical step is to be very intentional about your sleep. Give your body time to recover from the day with a full night's sleep, and be disciplined about your bedtime. To help you fall asleep, experts recommend getting off all of your screens 1 hour before you go to bed. So just 2 practical suggestions for today's busy lifestyle and the challenges of our world right now. Disconnect and rest up. Summer can be the perfect time to evaluate your life and routines. So to get you started, I'm going to end this message giving you a few moments of quiet to reflect on this question. How can I come away and rest a while this summer? Ask God to speak to your heart and be willing to hear His answer. We'll take a few minutes now for some silent reflection.